You know, a lot of people's interest in fashion is a little, superficial.
Well, they love her photographs.
Right, but you know what? It's always been more than that. And part of the reason I got interested in this first place, this originally was going to be very much like sort of like whatever happened to kind of story. It was not originally supposed to be such a big story. And what happened was I started talking to these people in the business who I thought of as relatively superficial people. Or people who never talked about anything except what color was in and what hair was in, And instead, they all talked about these incredibly serious things. So I was kind of captivated by the idea of all these people in fashion who no one ever sees talk about anything but fashion, talking about something incredibly personal.
But fashion is very serious. It's very deep.
But I'm not talking about, what I'm talking about is, what they're talking about is something incredibly personal. Many people broke down in tears during the interviews. These are people that I'm used to seeing on, early versions of entertainment television, just saying fabulous.
Yeah.
So it was interesting to me to be able to write about the fashion business at people's personal level because Gia's story just freaked them out.
Yeah.
And talking about it freaked them out, and it was real. And what you're looking for.
And there's no happy ending.
No, and there was a lot of guilt, and people were really actively wringing their hands and asking whether they did something wrong. And interestingly, because people thought that the project would be critical of the fashion business, I thought everybody was pretty open about how they felt they had screwed up and what they would do differently now that they knew more about drugs and they knew more about mental illness and they knew more about AIDS. And I thought that was really quite powerful. But again, what's been great to me just to see all the stuff that's been online, the reaction to the movie. The movie's very dark. There's things about the movie I don't love because they made a lot of stuff up for no reason. And I have my own frictional relationship with the movie because I wasn't really involved with it, and that's a whole other story.
Another question I was going to ask.
But it's serious, and no one, pulled any punches. There's no happy ending.
No.
And so that's what, as a journalist, to be able to get somebody to read a story that's that powerful, it's that heavy, that doesn't end well, but is a true cautionary tale. You hope that people will stick with it. You hope that they will find it that way, and that it will scare people who are in rehab because they want to read it, they want to get better. It will comfort people who are gay, who are not being accepted. It will help.
All that.
It'll help people whose parents are going through divorce, who don't know what to do about that. So the fact that Gia was like a really famous model was always secondary to me, compared to those things, which I always thought were much more interesting to write about, and were the most interesting parts of her story, and honestly were probably the things about her life that she thought was interesting. Because I never got the impression that she thought being a model was like any big deal. And I think, but I'm just saying, from all the people that I talked to her about it, look, she was making a lot of money, it was an interesting life, but what I'm saying is, when life finally took all the turns that it took, and she realized what her life was really about, those are the things that I think really resonate. So I've been really proud of the world that this sort of created, which I haven't had that much to do with. Honestly, you have much more to do with it than me. People read the book, they occasionally send me questions, but in reality, it's its own world. And it has been since before the movie came out, when people already had started making, I thought one of the most interesting things is that people made Gia an AIDS quilt without talking to the family. The family was still very separate from the whole thing, and Gia's fans made
so funny, I want to do another quilt.
It's, the original quilt, I don't know what it is. I remember the woman who made it. She was a very cool woman. This is a very long time ago. But look, I always thought that Gia's story deserved to be this big a deal. And so it is, and again, it's taken seriously, which is, I think, a more important thing, because sometimes stories that have a possibly trashy part to them, that's all they become. So I'm just glad that the people who should take comfort in Gia's story do.
Yes.
The people who need to be scared straight by Gia's story can be. And that is something that you hope for as a journalist, because look, I spent a lot of time, I spent many, many months writing that article. I spent several years of my life writing the book.
And you had no internet.
No internet. All my friends thought I was out of my mind. I'm writing a book about a junkie model that no one ever heard of.
You know what? It's always, when I try to describe her, and I always say, well, what can you do? She was a junkie. she was so much more than that, that when I say it, even though it's true, it always sounds so depressing, and it sounds like, you know the story, there was originally you wanted another cover, and I remember that other cover. I didn't print it out, but it was a shot of Albert's. And do you remember why he didn't let you use that? Or is that not
Probably because of you.
There was a lot of protection about...
Honestly, I think at a certain point,
Stephen, I'm
they just felt that, it was one, Albert's place, Liz's place,
Right.
your connections to people.
Right.
I think that there was a feeling that, but I can't predict why people didn't do it.
No.
All I know, I was surprised because Albert did do the interview, and then he wouldn't let us use the picture. I'm sure it's not one of his favorite pictures. Part of the reason that I like the picture, it was a picture taken later in her life. It was like a fur shot for German Vogue.
I had the picture in my mind.
And part of the reason I liked it was because it was kind of a little scary.
Yeah,
it was beautiful and a little scary. And I had it over my desk.
And how did you come up with Thing of Beauty?
Just from Keats. We always, Thing of Beauty is a very common phrase in literature, so that's what we always called it. That was the original title of the story. Always thought that was the right title. I remember having a bit of an argument about it with Simon & Schuster, but they ended up sort of going with it. The biggest...
It's a great title.
The issues that they had mostly were with the pictures. So, and then we ended up, when Albert wouldn't let us use that picture, going to Lance Stedler, who had obviously this picture,
right.
That were from very early shots that had been taken of Gia. But there's a million pictures. One of the things that's been very cool about the internet, you've no idea how many countries I had to go to gather all the images